Okay, so hi, my name's Catherine. I'm a disability support worker for a day program centre. I met Kitty around 4 years ago after my husband and I separated, and I went from a two-income household to a single mum of three kids. I actually joined a single mum group on Facebook, and Kitty was a part of that group, and some people on there were talking about what she did for them, and I made contact through that group. So I thought, here we go, she's going to want thousands of dollars to ring the bank and tell me that I still have to pay all this money back. And then after speaking with her for probably 30 seconds, I thought, oh, this woman gets it. She understands. So she's going to fix this. So I had a couple of credit cards and a loan in my name. However, my husband at the time and I were both paying them off. So obviously when we separated, they were wholly and solely my responsibility. So it was overwhelming. It was not something that could be fixed. There was not enough money coming in compared to the money that had to be going out. So you'd pay a little bit and then you'd take that back off the next day to pay something else. It was just robbing from Peter to pay Paul and never getting anywhere. It was just anxiety inducing. It was constantly writing out which bill was due when and what I had to pay and how much was owing and rewriting it on a different piece of paper to try and make it better. It was just constant thinking of, okay, I need to work this much to earn this much to pay this much. It was a constant loop in my head of, I can't do this. This is impossible. I had no idea they existed. I would ring the bank and they would say, all right, you can skip this month's payment, but you'd pay an extra $30 fee next month and pay twice as much. So that was the only solution that was offered. No, I didn't even know it was an option. No, none of the lenders ever said to me, here's a solution or here's something we can do for you. It was just, you need to pay this money. I didn't know there was someone who could advocate on my behalf and just take the pressure off for a few minutes. Yeah, that was exactly how I thought. I got off the call and I thought, there's no way she's going to help me. She's going to email me in a couple of days and say, sorry, this is not something we can help you with. You don't earn enough or you can't pay me enough. I thought the underlying thing would be I have to give her money before she can help me in any way. And I didn't have any money to give. So to have the conversation with her where she was adamant just her tone was so, we've got this, honey. We've got this. We can fix this. It was a bit of a 50-50 mix of this is too good to be true and, oh, my God, I hope this works. So Kitty, I gave all my information to Kitty. She didn't require me to have a down payment or anything. It was a very easy process. I basically handed her my bills. I signed some paperwork saying you were in charge of these bills. And she then got in touch with my creditors. And the first time I realised that she was actually doing something was when I got a letter from the bank. And it said your payments have been suspended for 6 months. And it was this overwhelming. I think I rang her half crying and I'm like, the bank just told me I don't have to pay them anything for 6 months. And she's like, that's right. And then she gave me a plan of how we're going to incorporate this for the next 6 months. It wasn't just a breather. It was a new way of life to manage the situation I was in. Like an opening, like I could breathe again. It felt like I had my freedom back. Like I didn't have to think every second of how am I going to pay these bills? How am I going to ever get ahead? How am I ever going to afford the life I need for my kids? I could sleep again. So it was the tension left. The day-to-day tension that I was carrying that I didn't even know was so heavy, that was gone. And I had support. I had someone I could talk to about it because it's not something you can talk about with your friends and family. Everyone's always, oh, I'm broke, but no one actually has the actual conversations where they say, look, I'm in this much debt and I have to pay this much each week and I can't afford it. So that Kitty was someone I could have an honest conversation with for the first time in a long time. Now, one of my friends, I said something about, I've got to get petrol, but payday's not till tomorrow. And she laughed and said, oh, you don't live like that. Because the presentation wasn't like that. We were all keeping up appearances and, we're dressed well and we're fed and we've got a nice car, but we can't afford any of it. It became very antisocial and very isolating because you'd be I'd be refusing dinner invitations or I wouldn't be going out with my friends or it became really limiting with the people that I could interact with. Yeah, it was a learning curve of this is what I need to do to get out of this mess. And it was Kitty's guidance that was doing that. And I think the more room I had to breathe and the more relaxed I felt, the more open I was to talk about it. So it's sort of, by taking the pressure off, it made me able to say to people, yeah, look, this is what I've been going through, but it's getting fixed. So sort of, in a way, it brought out the shame and put it on the table and said, you know what, I'm not ashamed of this anymore because I'm doing something to fix it. And I can come out with you this weekend because I have X amount of dollars allocated for entertainment. So Kitty from Dead Angel Solutions helped me get rid of my shame. Well, so my expectations going in were Kitty will maybe get a hold on this. So Kitty will maybe get payments suspended for a couple of months and I'll save up as much as I can and pay what I can. And then I'll be back where I started. But the solution wasn't that. It was Kitty sending letters to my creditors and then them replying. And then she went into bat for me and she was my advocate. And to have someone talk to people who I found intimidating was just such a relief. I didn't know you could ring them and say, no, I'm not doing that. I didn't know that there were options out there. So to have her ring me and say, I've rang them, I've got this letter, I don't agree with that, Catherine, I've rang them back, to have someone in my corner fighting for me was just completely, it was personal. It wasn't just a business transaction for her. It was her wanting the best for me as a person as well. Definitely the whole team, there were several email communications, people on the phone, I can't remember all their names, but no matter who I rang or who I emailed, the response was always welcoming and there was no problem with whatever I needed. It was just it felt like a family-based business that I was a part of. I think all up my debts were about $40,000. And I think Kitty wiped thousands off that, like at least half of that was gone. If I hadn't used the services that Kitty offered, I wouldn't be in the situation I am now. I own 2 cars outright. I have no debt at all. I have no credit cards, no loans, no store cards. I have money in the bank. I have nothing owing to anybody, and I'm not hanging out till payday. I feel immense gratitude. I just feel such relief that the hole I was in isn't a hole anymore. It's gone, and I've exceeded where I thought I would be. I never thought as a single mum I would be able to buy a brand new car in cash. I never thought as a single mum I'd have a credit history that I wasn't ashamed of. So the relief and just the education too that came with it. It was Kitty and her team breaking everything down and educating me on how to look after myself and my money and not just fixing it and then leaving. So I did actually refer it on to my ex-husband. And we had a very honest conversation probably 2 years after the fact that if we had found Kitty earlier, our marriage may not have been under the strain it was under. So we weren't communicating about money. We were both ignoring the problems. So that was a massive thing for us to have a conversation that said, you know what, if we had have done this sooner, maybe we wouldn't be where we are now. And also my mum, I referred my mum onto this, and Kitty was absolutely amazing with the whole ordeal again. It was a generational thing for me. It was, we never spoke about money. We never discussed finances. So then once I was comfortable enough to say to my family, this is what I've been through and this is how it was fixed, my mum was then able to say, what was that number? Who was that woman? And then she in turn used Kitty's services to a massive, massive benefit to her. But with my mum, her mortgage was paid off. Every credit card she owned was cleared. It was at least $50,000 for my mum. Well, my mum was a terminal cancer patient. So it gave her peace of mind towards the end of her life that her family weren't going to be saddled with this debt. And that the last year of her life, she wasn't stressing about money. It didn't matter by then because Kitty had taken care of all of it. This is why it needs to be put out there, because for my mum, like she only passed about 8 weeks ago. And for her to know that this was something that she didn't have to carry with her. My brothers didn't know about her debt. I was unaware of how bad it was. So for her to be able to leave this world knowing that was fixed, it wasn't a burden for her family, it wasn't something she had to focus on anymore, it gave her peace of mind. If anyone had any doubt about what Kitty does, I'd say give them my number. Because what she does is phenomenal. It's absolutely life-changing. And to be in that situation, you don't know how other people live. And 80% of your friends are probably in the same situation, but you don't know about it if you don't talk about it. And the fact that Kitty is open and honest about what she has been through to get to this point, it makes it so much easier to think you're not alone, and you hear her stories and what she's been through, so you can relate to somebody finally. I really want the message to be out there that this is solvable. There is no shame in it, and there is no point living with it day to day if you don't have to, and you don't have to.